All right, great. Well, thanks, Will, for joining us today and taking us through ADAS Trak. We're really excited to hear a lot more about it. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the genesis of Trak and just how you guys came up with the software idea and just how it all came together?
Yeah, great question. Track really came from ADAS Safe, which is our calibration business. That's been going on for about 2 years now. And Track was kind of built and started out of necessity. We really faced a lot of pain points early on in our calibration business. And just for context, we have roughly 20 to 25 mobile units kind of across 5 states now. And so, getting to that point, we were kind of all over the place in the very beginning. We had a lot of problems with things like scheduling and dispatching, workflow management, invoicing and billing, keeping our data clean, among with just using so many other kind of external feature sets. And we had to ask ourselves, like, we want to grow this business, but we can't do it how we're doing it now. And so we thought, what could an all-in-one solution look like? And that's kind of how Track was started from the beginning. And then, of
Okay.
course, 2 years later, we built that out. It's been really helping us run our business. And yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it. No, super helpful. And if you could maybe walk us through just your role at Track and also ADAS Safe. Like I know it's kind of two companies that are doing slightly different things. So we'd love to hear just a little bit more about yourself and what your role is with the company.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, ADAS Safe and Track, they are, of course, related. I'm mostly focused on Track. So I'm the head of sales at Track, heavily involved in client relationships and the growth here, kind of acting as a translator between our technicians and our engineering team, as well as our external customers and our engineering team. And there is heavy linkage between these two. So there's a constant feedback loop that ADAS Safe and Track have, and they rotate both back and forth for feedback. So I'm kind of caught in the middle of all of that. And of course, trying to expand and let people know about Track in the early stages, onboarding customers, making sure that's smooth and efficient. So that's my main role.
What do you think the linkage between ADAS Safe and Track have enabled? Like said otherwise, like if you were just a software company that didn't have a calibration business that was related, like what do you think you would have missed?
It's a good question. I'm not sure exactly what we would have missed, but I do think, again, Track was born out of necessity. And, there is this constant feedback loop that Track gets from ADAS Safe and that ADAS Safe gets from Track. I know I briefly mentioned things like data, clean data. That was not really one of our, key benefits we wanted to have early on, but it kind of became something that was a byproduct of Track, which helped us make and continue to make data-driven decisions. So that's kind of one thing. Obviously, our operations team has had a huge help here. It really with the workflow management part of Track, which I'll show a little bit later. But in terms of what we're kind of, I guess, missing out on if we weren't just a calibration business, it's hard to say because we are, and it was Track came after ADAS Safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it. And so when you step back, like what do you think are the key features? What do you think are the key problems rather that Track is aiming to solve today that isn't being addressed necessarily in the market?
Yeah, good question. I would say that, market itself has a lack of standardization, right? Whether you are the customer, the insurer, the body shop, even sometimes the ADA calibration company, right? There's so much ambiguity when it comes to things like procedures, pricing, when calibrations are required and how that gets solved, obviously for the customer. And so the real problem that we're trying to solve is making sure all those miscalibrations, are now noticed, right? Keeping liability down, providing a foundational, consistent documentation for every single work order, every single vehicle that is serviced, making sure that there is standardized pricing as well. Again, a lot of parties involved. That has to be fair and consistent. Scheduling too, of course, there is with a scalable business model like this, it gets tricky to manage all of these different cars, right? And how they come in and through the phone call system that kind of is standard, that becomes difficult as well. And so I think those general themes are the biggest problems that we're trying to solve.
Okay, got it. And so when you're talking with customers, like what do you pitch them on as far as like the key selling points or the key features of Track?
Sure. I think I could probably, if you don't mind, I can share my screen real quick.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
I guess some of the key features, kind of just generally speaking, this is a list of vehicles, for example, that are coming in through CCC Secure Share. So every time that estimate is written, it will populate and track. We're able to kind of monitor volume and see when these calibrations are being required. If I just went in and I clicked on this vehicle, this is an admin view, mind you, so I'm seeing kind of all vehicles across all locations from all shops, but going in, seeing some of these vehicles, seeing what calibrations are required, and being able to kind of just instantly find those position statements. As you'll see here too, the estimate is already kind of dropped in there. You click on that, and it will give our version of what the estimate would look like. Of course, all the data is protected, all those position statements as well. I think this has been one of the key features that we're still continuing to work on a lot. We'll have kind of a PDF soon of what this might look like in terms of a required calibration report. It's going to look something like this, and we'll continue to kind of update the UI, the UX, and functionality of features like this. I'll show you very quickly too the scheduling tab. This has been a game changer for our operations team, just in terms of managing all the vehicles are coming in from different locations, from different body shops. Essentially, these cars that are soon to be serviced or were serviced today can be scheduled by the body shop through CCC integration in Track, and these will automatically dispatch to our technicians on the ground. So today we had, a couple appointments for one of our technicians, and this also populates and is available for an admin view. So, if I wanted to go look at a different truck here and see what he's up to, I can see his
Oh,
schedule
wow.
just like that.
Yeah,
So
very neat.
that's two of some of the key features of Track that we're really, really proud of. And again, we'll continue to work on for, the full release.
Okay, got it. And when you're talking to customers, what would you say are your points of differentiation versus other softwares out there?
Good question. I think going back to kind of what we were talking about previously, this was really built by the calibration company, ADAS Safe, and we originally didn't have, intentions to kind of white label the software. This is live tested in a real world high volume environment. So it does provide that constant feedback loop. And that makes sure that we're really asking ourselves and asking our future customers, what what is going to benefit them? How are they going to scale this business and make it run efficiently? I think that is the main differentiator by far.
Okay, got it. And how much traction do you have so far on Track?
I won't get into a ton of the details, but we do have some really important design partners right now. They are kind of our early adopters, beta users of Track that is white labeled. They're kind of in the pilot stages right now, but there's been a lot of outside interest from other calibration companies, but also collision centers as well to run some of their in-house calibrations.
Interesting. So then they don't really need like the fleet sort of management functionality. They are really just more about the identifier of calibrations. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yep, that's exactly right. They also really, yeah, they won't need that scheduling option as well, but they'll kind of more hone into the workflow management system where, and this is kind of how we think of it as the McDonald's hamburger, right? So wherever you go across the world and you get a McDonald's hamburger, it's essentially the same thing every single time. And that's kind of what a lot of the collision centers like is that super standardized process. Of course, it's customizable based on their process, but there will be different options there for different people.
Okay. And when do you guys think you'll have a broader release?
We're aiming for early to mid September. So, you know, ballpark it at kind of
Wow,
that
pretty soon.
range. So coming up here
Pretty
pretty
soon.
soon. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, nice. Well, we look forward to the broader rollout, and beyond just like when you have it ready for the masses, what does the product roadmap look like for Track? What
Good
features do
question.
you want to build in afterwards? After the launch, what are you still working on? Right.
Yeah. Well, we're still kind of working on all of the features that are there now, right? And so there's going to be constant improvements to functionality, small changes to UI UX. We are always going to be getting that customer feedback from our beta users, and then of course when we sign on new people, they'll, I'm sure, have different feedback. So we will be consistently working on this for the future. Some small things for the short term will be more advanced reporting metrics, kind of those more advanced analytics, you know, other than things like average ticket price or, revenue per truck,
Mhm.
getting to be a little bit more advanced and allowing people to make those data, driven decisions. I think that's kind of more short term. And then we'll look into more of procedure requirements, right? How exactly get a little bit more granular on the details of how to do these calibrations and build that into the workflow management. We're looking at some integrated payments. Right now, it's a little bit external, looking to bring that in house in the long term, along
Oh,
with
like
a couple other
invoicing, like
things. But
you'll invoice and then you'll get paid. Okay, that's nice.
exactly.
That's nice. Okay. So stepping back, what are you most excited about for calibrations, for the whole diagnostic industry at large? I mean, it's certainly exciting what you guys are working on, but just curious, like in your mind, what's the most exciting thing or most interesting thing that you and Track are keeping tabs on?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a really fast changing environment here. It's very niche. I think what I and us are most excited about and really interested in is this continuation of the collision industry just continuing to consolidate. I think it'll be interesting to see how that affects shops, how that affects sublet providers, insurance companies, and also the customer too. Obviously, these cars that are coming out now are getting more and more high tech as well. So we're interested to see how some of these new models, some of the new ADAS systems come into play,
Hmm.
how people like us and collision centers will deal with those. There's so much to be excited for, and we're just happy to be here and try to provide value to the ecosystem.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well, with that, thanks a lot for the time. Really excited for what you guys are doing and the functionality that you're bringing via software to operators. So yeah, just thanks a lot. So thank you, Will.
Thanks, Darren.